Hi and welcome to the Running Channel. I'm Anna, and today, along with Andy and some of our friends from the world of running, we're going to be looking back at some of the most controversial moments in running of 2019.
We've pulled together a list of what we think are the most outrageous, and there's been quite a few. It's been quite a year. We're going to include Eliud Kipchoge's sub 2-hour marathon, the certain pair of shoes that everyone's been talking about this year, and the controversial World Championships in athletics in Doha earlier on in 2019.
Before we dive in though, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you get notified when we upload new videos all about running, which we do every single week. Okay, so let's dive in with our first video.
Hi, I'm running journalist and 2:33 marathoner Nick Harris-Fry, and my controversial moment in running for 2019 has been the Nike shoe tech that's dominated the field. We're talking about the Vaporfly, which has a carbon fibre plate in its midsole, which basically improves your running economy. So it lowers the energy cost of running. So at the end of long distance events, you kind of feel fresher, fitter, faster. And it's one of the reasons people think we're seeing these incredible times like Eliud Kipchoge's sub 2 marathon, or Bridget Kosgei smashing Paula Radcliffe's really old world record for the marathon. Now, all shoes have kind of claimed advantages at some point, but Nike seems to be really backed up by real world results and also in the lab. And it really asks the question, like, is this fair? Like, it's hard to compare athletes because some obviously don't have access to Nike shoes if they're sponsored by another company, but also even athletes of past eras. And is Kipchoge maybe a 2:03 marathoner who's running a sub 2 because of these shoes? Now, does that really matter? And what could you even do about it? You could ban the kind of carbon plate maybe in the shoe, or insist that they had a lower stack height because this big slab of lightweight cushioning is obviously helping as well. But I think they're probably not going to do any of that. I think a lot of other brands are about to launch their own kind of real competitor to the Vaporfly, and next year what we'll see is kind of everyone running shoes like this and a whole slew of fast times, for better or for worse.
Interesting. So these shoes are obviously everywhere. You look at the front pack of any marathon, even further back, and everyone's got the bright green, bright pink Vaporflies on. They've definitely done some genius marketing here. And I think, actually, are they that bad? I think technology is advancing in all areas of our life these days, so why not be shoe tech? You know, you've still got to be a pretty good runner to run under, you know, the world record at the marathon like Kosgei did in these in Chicago, and I just think that, you know, we kind of have to go with the times here.
Yeah, I do have a slightly different take on this. You know about that. We've chatted a little bit. That broadly for me, what's happened is that they've spoiled the comparison from previous eras, and I've up until this point felt like I had a really good handle on what times meant. So Olympic qualifying times, World Championship qualifying times, good for age times. They were all comparable across generations broadly. I suppose you could argue that there's been advances in physiological science and sports medicine and so on, but these shoes do seem to have given us a seismic shift in the times. And what that's done for me is take away the enjoyment of seeing a performance and just going, wow, that's incredible. Whereas now I'm thinking, well, how much is that worth in kind of in old money?
Yeah.
When I'm looking at the times.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what the other shoe brands do over the coming years to try and sort of keep up with this tech.
Yeah, definitely. I think we'll see them trying to level that playing field, particularly at the major championships where athletes are bound to run in their shoes, the shoes of their sponsor.
Yeah.
Hi there, my name's Tim Hutchins. I ran a bit a long time ago and I'm now a commentator on road racing and athletics. And my controversial moment is the whole 159 project focused on Eliud Kipchoge, that thing back in Vienna on the 12th of October. Why was it controversial? Well, for me, it was forced, it was fabricated, it was engineered, it was invalid, it was rule breaking, it was contrived. It was a bit like saying, let's get a man under 9 seconds for 100 metres. We'll go to Usain Bolt on a downhill 100 metres track and see if we can get to prove that somebody can turn their legs over that quickly. Oh look, he's run 8.99, therefore let's all shout it from the rooftops. So I was really disappointed with that. There were so many illegal advantages. He had a team of pacers jumping in and out. He had a pace car at perfect speed with lasers. He had drinks at irregular intervals. And I'm a huge admirer of Eliud Kipchoge, and I just wish he had waited to do it in a race. Let it happen organically in a world record, in a race, like it has been happening for years and years. So Eliud, my message to you would be, get it done in a race.
Nice of Tim to sit on the fence there.
That was amazing. And I'm going to say I don't actually agree with any of what you said. Sorry, Tim. I just think that this whole attempt was so amazing, and we all knew the assistance that he was going to have beforehand anyway. We knew about the paces and the lasers and everything else. The fact that a human being can run a marathon under 2 hours, we'd seen him try it before. It took more time to then happen again. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps remembering it. It was so inspiring, and it thrust marathon running into the wider public psyche as well. And I just think that was an amazing day.
Yeah, I'm with you actually. I see Tim's point, and I get from a purist perspective, just before it happened, you had Bekele running in Berlin and running within a few seconds of his legitimate real-world race conditions world record that Kipchoge holds.
Yeah.
So I understand his frustration, but yeah, like you, this is the first time in years and years that something's captured people who would never normally message me about athletics or running. I was getting messages from all sorts of people just saying how incredible it was, the fact they got up early to watch it. I managed to make my children, who are 3 and 5, sit down and watch just a little bit of it.
Yeah.
So that was the magic of it for me. It was on the main news. Like that's a pretty big deal for running. So what he did and what he's been trying to do has totally transcended kind of athletics and the rule book.
Absolutely. And you know what? Anyone who can inspire people to go out and run, I mean, they're okay in my books.
Hi, my name's Shaun Engel. I'm a sports writer at The Guardian. My controversial moment was the decision to stop Caster Semenya, the brilliant South African 800 metre runner, from competing in events between 400 metres and a mile. Semenya was, of course, undefeated since 2016. She dominated the sport, but she also was born with very high testosterone levels. And the court ruled that despite being born as a woman and identifying as a woman, because she had these high testosterone levels, she had to have them suppressed if she wanted to compete at her best distances. Massively split athletics down the middle. Some athletes think it's fair because she has such an advantage. Others think she should be allowed to compete no matter what. And the ramifications are still being felt.
Well, as Shaun says there, a topic that is certainly controversial and something that split athletics down the middle, and I think something that's, you know, quite difficult to discuss, I guess, but is important too.
It's important because it's been an amazingly controversial news story this year that's had a lot of coverage. There's been ups and downs with courts upholding and overturning and prolonging what Caster Semenya and other people in the same situation are having to go through. And there are lots of other factors that play into this. The main thing being that no one, in terms of the general public, me included, fully understands all of the facts. I'm not sure I'm equipped to summarise because it's incredibly complicated, but broadly there are people who think that testosterone and naturally higher levels of testosterone in people who are DSD, who have differences in sexual development, whether that confers a natural and unfair advantage on those people versus whether or not there is an evidence or a weight of evidence substantial enough to mean that athletes like Caster Semenya should have to be put through this kind of medical regimen to alter their hormones. And actually the World Medical Association has said that they feel like any doctor that does put an athlete through this would actually be in violation or potentially be in violation of their kind of ethical guidelines that they should act under in terms of duty of care and do no harm. So this one's my controversial moment of 2019, and that's the fact that the World Championships in athletics were held in Doha in Qatar earlier this year. Lots of reasons it was controversial. It was very hot. There were no people in the stands for a lot of the events, and because of that, the atmosphere suffered, and some of the greatest performances that we've seen from British athletes and other athletes around the world didn't get the reception at the time that perhaps they should have. So that's my moment of the year.
Yeah, I totally agree with this one being controversial as well. It was so upsetting to see Dina Asher-Smith in the stadium the night of the final, doing her victory lap, to just a bunch of journalists who were still there trying to write to deadline. And it was so upsetting. I went to London 2012, not as an athlete, that was him. And just feeling that atmosphere and stuff and the crowd and the amount that actually gives you as an athlete. I mean, you know better than I do, but it must feel amazing. And to not have that must feel very strange.
Yeah, that's the bit that most athletes live for. Like, so much of what goes on in training, nobody ever gets to see in the rain and the winter and all this stuff, and it's horrible. It's for that moment when you step out and people give you the round of applause and there's the roar of the crowd as you're going round the track or, you know, jumping or whatever your event is. Yeah. And to not have that, that's one of the single biggest things that people do ask me about London 2012. They were there in the crowd and they felt it and they wanted to know what it felt like on the track. Yeah. Whereas you saw the footage on TV of Dina being able to hear someone shouting down from the commentary box because the stadium was so deserted. Yeah, and you also mentioned about the fact that it was hot as well, and I found it really uncomfortable to watch the women's marathon where nearly half the field dropped out. And even Gabri Selassie gave an interview afterwards and said that he thought it was unacceptable that the marathon went ahead and that actually, you know, it put athletes at risk and they could have died from the conditions, which just puts it into perspective of actually quite how difficult those conditions were. Yeah, there's all sorts of things that people have talked about, the decisions as to why it was held there in the first place and the politics involved in that. And also add into the mix the fact that actually the atmosphere throughout the week did pick up, mainly because of the East African fans that came to watch the distance races. And even more controversially, in my opinion, now the IAAF, World Athletics, have decided to remove the steeplechase, the 5K, these longer distance events from the prestige Diamond League series in the summer. And I just don't feel like that's the answer to get the engagement when you do get an incredible atmosphere when there are people there to watch those races.
I think you've just touched upon another controversial moment there, Andy.
Yeah, careful.
Hi, I'm Liz Ayres, and my most controversial moment of running in 2019 was the London Marathon. I was the 7.5-hour pacer, party at the back. Unfortunately, it wasn't a party at the back. We had to deal with the clean-up crew, fat shaming, and lots of abuse. It wasn't a good time at the London Marathon.
So this one hit the headlines in more than just sort of running media as well. So 7.5-hour pacers, the 7.5-hour group at London Marathon. And for me, it was really disappointing to see that these people were having, a bad time at London Marathon, because as we, at the Running Channel are super inclusive of all abilities of running. And yeah, it was just really sad that the 7.5-hour pacers had been put there. The people had been sticking with Liz and with the pacers to run in that time and perhaps didn't have the best experience. It's really important to note, though, that there are conversations going on behind the scenes now to work out what happened, how it happened, and how to stop it from happening again. And all of the people affected have been invited back to London Marathon this year too.
Yeah, I think that is a nice gesture. I think nobody should have a problem with the idea of a cut-off time, because the reality is you have to draw a line somewhere, and roads can't stay closed all day.
Yeah.
But the key point here was that she was a designated pacer. She'd been asked to run at that pace to complete the course. She was inside the pace she'd been asked to. So I think that's why this struck a nerve with so many people. Those people who were running at that pace had every right to experience the London Marathon or whatever marathon they might be running in the same way as the guys further towards the front.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, the abuse that was claimed to have been received as well, that's obviously separate from the London Marathon officials, and that's a separate thing to it as well that should never have happened, and people who go out running should never be, subjected to that kind of behaviour either.
Hi, I'm Darren M. Finn, author, ultra runner, journalist. My controversial moment for 2019 is CAMILLE HERRON'S world record on the 24-hour World Championships. She was pulled from the course. She'd been queuing up. She had stomach issues, horrendous stomach issues. Was queuing up for the lose. There was a big queue. She couldn't be bothered waiting. She thought, I'll do another lap. Things got a bit out of hand. As she said, this is ultra running. Shit happens, literally. And so she ended up getting pulled from the course, happened to have a shower. She still got back on course, broke the world record. What a hero. CAMILLE HERRON.
Wow. I mean, that was quite a controversial moment, just for the lengths that Camille went to in the quest for that world record. I think it's really hard to kind of understand that mindset for us normal runners like me. Would I have done the same? I don't know, but I'm not chasing after any world records here. So I think it's really difficult to put yourself in that position. So yeah, a pretty controversial moment there.
Yeah, I guess you have to be so dedicated and so driven at any level in sport, really, but particularly if you're doing something as intense as a 24-hour race. And if you've been out there for that long and you've been that committed to it, then surely there's going to be a point when fatigue and determination and rational thinking all combine, where you're not going to be able to make particularly rational decisions, and you just want to carry on, you want to win, you want to get across that finish line. So that would be my take on it, and also the fact that I don't really feel equipped to comment because I don't have the ability or fortitude or willpower to do anything for 24 hours, quite frankly.
Hi, I'm Jo Pavey, and my choice for a controversial moment in running in 2019 was the story of Mary Cain, one of the USA's most promising young distance runners. It was heartbreaking to hear Mary's story of suffering so much physical and mental stress in an abusive coaching environment.
I got caught in a system designed by and for men, which destroys the bodies of young girls.
She suffered problems like negative body image, disordered eating, and this led to stress fractures happening as well. It was just so sad, and it was just, for me as a runner, I feel like I've been really fortunate to enjoy my career, and hearing of a young athlete so determined to follow her dreams and ending up in such an awful situation The coaching environment needs to be nurturing and fun and allow athletes to really be nurtured and enjoy their sport. That's what we all want as runners ourselves. And also we just need to make sure there's adequate education for athletes, coaches and everyone involved in the running industry to make sure the issues that Mary's so bravely raised really are addressed.
I mean, Joe's kind of covered everything that needs to be said there. It's such a shocking and awful story. It was really upsetting to see this, but also so brave of Mary to have spoken out. And she raised a really interesting point in her interview as well, saying that she wonders where she would be today if there were more women at the top of the sport. So I think that's certainly something that should be considered.
Yeah, I think she touched on education. That's probably two things that go hand in hand, having more women there to talk to athletes in a way that they know that they've been through it and that they understand. And I think we just need to be aware of the negative association with weight and performance, because often female athletes will, and male athletes to an extent, will lose weight and see an immediate performance gain. The problem is it's not sustainable, it's not healthy, it comes with all sorts of negative side effects and can really curtail someone's career. And then similarly, there's, I think, a little bit of a lack of understanding of the significant differences in development of boys and girls, and the fact that there's this relatively linear development for boys, whereas with girls, depending on when significant hormonal and developmental changes take place, you actually should probably expect a plateau in performance and development, whereas the thing that everyone is aiming for is a constant increasing, always seeing improvement. And when you don't get that, there's a pressure to try and find a way to do it, and often disordered eating, losing weight can be a really negative way of going about that. So it's something that I hope that her story will resonate with people and stop people from falling into the same traps and help a lot of people.
Yeah, and we've already seen other athletes come out since Mary sort of raised this issue as well, which has been really, positive to see in a negative way that it's happened to them too. But starting that conversation has been really important.
Hi, I'm Kate from the Running Channel, and my big moment from running this year is the thorny subject of equality in cross country. In a lot of races, a lot of leagues, men are still running further than women in cross country races. And thanks to the work of Maud Hudson and the Run Equal campaign, it's really started to draw more attention to the fact that this is utterly ridiculous in the 21st century. We don't run shorter 10Ks, we don't run shorter marathons, but for some reason, put us in a muddy field, and apparently we'll just collapse of femaleness if we're forced to run too far.
So there we go, Kate from the Running Channel's controversial moment of 2019 being the equal cross-country distances. And as a cross-country club runner myself, it's something that I've actually experienced this year. So the league that my club run in, the Met League, did equal the distances this year. So the last few fixtures that I've been doing have been equal distances for men and women. And as a relatively new runner, and certainly new to cross-country, my first ever one was last season, I didn't even realise that men were running further than women. And when I found out, I did just think it was absolutely ludicrous, because as Kate says, we run 10Ks, same as men, we run marathons, same as men. And for me, it just seemed bonkers that there was this sort of difference between men and women at cross country. And I, am definitely of the opinion that there should be gender parity when it comes to running as a sport, because you see more and more women taking part in these mass participation events. You see almost 50-50 at start lines these days, depending on the race and things. And just to have a different distance just kind of blew my mind a little bit. So I am all for gender equality in cross country.
Yeah, not much more to add to that. I think it'd be bonkers if I was to stand here and go, oh, I can defend it. I can't. The things that people put up in their defence is that it takes longer, or it's a historical thing, but there's no reason for that. And actually, one of the things that gets me the most with a young daughter is actually that it starts really early, the disparity in distances. So right from a very young age, girls are being told they can't run as far as the boys, and I don't understand why that should be the case. And if that was the case, then bring the boys' distances down. But everyone should be running the same. People should be told that they're capable of doing the same, because they are. End of story, really.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see the turnout this season compared to last. And I know that this isn't just an issue in the UK as well. It's it's the same in US cross country too. So I think it's a controversial moment of 2019 that rumbles on.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Let's hopefully there'll be a level playing field for everybody.
So there you have it, our list of the top controversial moments in running of 2019.
Have we missed any, or is the one that you think is the most controversial? Let us know in the comments below.
And we'll see you next time on the Running Channel.